Hi, I'm Dongxiang. Welcome to Digging into China, where we explore China in depth to reveal unique perspectives. I want to share some significant political news from China. Li Qiang has outlined a new direction for the country's economy. Historically, Xi Jinping has been the one to set such courses, but in mid-May, Xinhua News Agency reported that the Premier Li Qiang is now guiding China's economic path. Here is how Xinhua described it. The State Council convened a meeting to bolster the domestic economic cycle, presided over by Vice Premier Ding Xuexiang, Vice Premier Zhang Guoqing and Liu Guozhong, along with the State Council's Wang Xiaohong, Wu Zhenglong, and Sheng Yiqing attended, joined by key officials from the National Development and Reform Commission, the Ministry of Commerce, and the several provinces and cities. During this meeting, Premier Li Qiang emphasized that domestic demand must take precedence and that a self-sustaining internal economy is a unique strength for a major nation. He stressed that strengthening the domestic economic cycle should be a central focus in shaping a new development framework. Li Qiang highlighted four priorities. First, efficient resource allocation. Second, deep integration of technological and industrial innovation. Third, self-reliant and comprehensive industrial and supply chains. And fourth, a dynamic balance between supply and demand. Let me offer two perspectives on Li Qiang's guidance for China's economic direction. First, Li Qiang's remarks diverge from the Chinese Communist Party's traditional rhetoric. Previously, when the party emphasized the domestic cycle, it always paired it with the international cycle, creating a cohesive logical framework where the two complemented each other. Rarely did they focus solely on one, especially the domestic cycle, except in foreign trade discussions where the international cycle was highlighted. For Li Qiang as premier to emphasize only the domestic cycle when addressing economic challenges sends a political signal. This likely isn't his unilateral decision, but reflects Xi Jinping's assessment of China's economic future. Furthermore, the four measures Li Qiang proposed carry a clear implication of decoupling from the global economy. He called for building self-reliant industrial and supply chains, promoting self-production and self-consumption. But if you achieve full self-sufficiency, what does that mean for your ties to the global economy? It suggests decoupling. This intense focus on the domestic cycle is noteworthy and merits close attention. Second, China's current economic challenges aren't primarily about incomplete industrial or supply chains. The core issues are overcapacity, insufficient consumer purchasing power, and an economy trapped in deflation. Breaking this harmful deflationary cycle requires bold and innovative measures. Yet Li Qiang's speech, with its four proposed measures, sidesteps deflation entirely. It lacks critical strategies to address it, and he seems to deliberately avoid the issue. Effective solutions would focus on tackling unemployment, increasing incomes, and addressing widespread pessimism about the future. The Chinese Communist Party currently portrays external pressures, such as the trade war, as the root of all China's difficulties. But this is misleading. The trade war is merely one factor in China's broader economic struggles, not the most critical one. Domestic challenges like overcapacity, the real estate crisis, local government debt, financial risks, and an aging population are far more pressing. Yet, Li Qiang avoids addressing these issues, as if all of China's problems can be attributed to Trump. This reflects a rather flawed governing logic. Another topic generating significant discussion both in China and internationally is whether the Chinese Communist Party's leadership will undergo major changes at the Fourth Plenary Session. What was once a mere speculation is now being discussed by US and Taiwanese officials. The question of whether Xi Jinping might partially step back at the Fourth Plenum has evolved into an international political issue, moving beyond the rumors. Let's examine this together. First, let's review some international media reports about the potential shifts in China's top decision-making ranks. One argument suggesting Xi Jinping might partially relinquishing power is that his trusted allies in the military are being removed one by one. Reports cite specific data. Since taking office, Xi has appointed 79 generals and 12 have been arrested so far. That's a 20% arrest rate among his appointees, which is notably high. Some interpret this as evidence that Xi's allies in the military are losing influence, suggesting he's losing control over the armed forces. Second, some overseas narratives claim Xi's authority is diminishing. For instance, on May 13th, the People's Liberation Army Daily published a report about armed police with the headline, "Seek truth, be pragmatic, reform work style, and boost grassroots morale." Notably, the article made no mention of Chairman Xi. Third, another piece of evidence fueling speculation that Xi might lose some authority or partially step back comes from a recent trade war negotiation that took an unexpected turn. Xi's close ally, He Lifeng, traveled to Switzerland for talks with the US and met with Swiss Federal President Karin Keller-Sutter. During this meeting, He Lifeng conveyed greetings from Chinese leaders and delivered a personally signed letter from Premier Li Qiang. Xinhua's report on this meeting omitted any mention of Xi Jinping. In a head-to-state-level diplomatic exchange, one would expect a letter from Xi, not Li Qiang. This diplomatic incident has led some to believe Xi's authority may be partially constrained, fueling speculation about significant changes in the party's top ranks at the Fourth Plenum. There is also widespread discussion that Xi might adopt a Deng Xiaoping model, meaning a partial retirement where he retains the chairmanship of the Central Military Commission or the presidency but relinquishes the role of General Secretary. Some even claim the next General Secretary has already been selected. Here are my thoughts. First, the three widely discussed news stories interpreted as evidence of Xi losing power are, in my view, weak and don't convincingly demonstrate a loss of authority. For example, the 20% arrest rate among Xi's appointed generals doesn't prove he's lost control of the military. Xi has been in power for over a decade, and most generals appointed before his tenure have retired. Those remaining are his appointees. Arresting his own appointees doesn't indicate a loss of control. It's not a logical conclusion. Today's top party officials are all Xi's appointees. He can remove anyone he chooses, and when he does, he replaces them with more of his loyalists. Thus, the arrest of his appointed generals shouldn't be seen as evidence of losing control over the military. Regarding He Lifeng delivering Li Qiang's letter and greetings to the Swiss Federal President, this should be viewed as a standard diplomatic protocol, not proof of Xi's diminished power. Switzerland's political system is unique. The federal president, seen as the country's symbolic head, serves 1 year, one non-renewable term, 1 year, though they can run again later. The role is largely ceremonial, with no greater authority than other federal council members. They simply chair meetings. Understanding this context, there is no significant hidden meaning in He Lifeng delivering a letter from Li Qiang. At times, Xi avoids engaging with leaders he perceives as unequal in status. Second, I believe Xi Jinping is unlikely to voluntarily relinquish any power at the Fourth Plenum. Given his current environment, he operates with considerable fear. In the party's internal power struggles, he's made many enemies and fears retaliation. Even though he's personally appointed nearly everyone in key positions, he remains deeply suspicious, treating them as potential threats. His relentless purges in the military, where almost everyone except Zhang Youxia faces scrutiny, reflect his fear. He perceives anyone with real power as a potential threat. Why does he feel everyone is against him? It stems from a guilty conscience. His extreme self-regard and the pursuit of absolute control have disrupted China's decades-long system of power and interest distribution. Any loss of dictatorial power could jeopardize Xi's personal safety, much like Putin. Even if Putin theoretically stepped down as Russia's president, he would never relinquish control over decision-making. The same applies to Xi. Without absolute power, his survival would be at risk. That is just my take. Thank you so much for watching. If you find this video helpful, please like it, drop a comment below, and hit the subscribe button right here. It really helps YouTube suggest my video to others. I'll be back with more content soon. Until then, be well.